We're still here at Blockchain Money in London, and I'm joined by Paul Worrell.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Paul. Paul's got a very interesting idea, but before we get into that, I wonder if you could just give us a bit of your background and how you've arrived here.
Well, I've got about 20 plus years in technology, mostly in investment banking, dealing with fraud construction, things like that. And my last role was with JP Morgan Chase, where I was a global architect, firm-wide architecture for about 6 or 7 years, and I left to start this project in 2014.
Well, let's go straight onto that project. I mean, you've been at it now for a couple of years.
Yes. So basically in 2013 we had quite a bit of fraud in my local community, and because everybody thought I should know about that, being someone involved in banking, they all came to me and said, oh, we've got these problems, and I started to study that, and I realised there was different types of fraud, but there was 3 things we found in common between every person. First of all, there was always somebody that knew that they wouldn't do that, so there was a relationship with the person. The second thing was, although they had tried to protect information, it was almost like a losing battle. So rather than focus on information, we wanted to focus on how do we stop an action happening, even if the information has got out. And then the third thing, it was pretty obvious for all the players that are involved, we need something that's really open and universal for people to collaborate over. So I started looking at cryptographic technology at the time, but I never really thought about blockchain. In fact, it wasn't really very high profile at the time in 2014 for me. But in March, I discovered Ethereum, and so I threw away everything I'd been working on, the ideology behind Ethereum and the cryptographic tools and techniques they'd got. I knew they were going in the right direction, so I just adopted that, and within a couple of weeks, I'd got a prototype app, a completely new one that replaced the one I'd had before. And then a couple of weeks ago, we went live with a beta on Google Play for the Android platform.
Wow, so you're already on Google, and literally from having discovered Ethereum, where are we now, 7 months ago?
Yeah, it was end of March. I even videoed that because I thought I'll video that because I'll be able to look back and see myself whether I actually did decide it was worth going that route or not, and obviously I did, so that's where we are now.
And what are the major advantages you've seen using the Ethereum platform?
Well, it's got a very good pattern of development. Obviously, there's the blockchain concept within it. There's the opportunity to have the smart contracts, which we use in my product, which I'll explain in a second. But most importantly, it's just got a lot of well thought out patterns of behavior in it, so I know it's going to go and evolve in the right direction. Some of the other things that I might have looked at were pretty loose and that had big holes in them. And for someone that was trying to solve a problem, we want to help people work together to stop fraud. That's what we're trying to do. And that's my focus, not trying to build a technology product to sell to somebody else to embed in another product. We really want to try and help people solve this problem with fraud.
So let's hear about the name and what it actually delivers.
Okay, so the product's called Zonafide. The core concept in it is a zone, which is actually a smart contract. And so what you're able to do is create an activity, which is nice and... After hearing Mr. McAfee there, it worries me about security saying this. I don't want to be held to account to it yet. But the idea is a smart contract on the Ethereum platform, cryptographically protected, encrypted data in it, and you can create an activity as a person and then volunteer other people that you know to acknowledge that that activity was legitimate. And you share those people. It's a very common behavioral model actually, but I'm just trying to use Ethereum to do it as a universal platform. So they can share those people with a recipient that they want to carry out the action with, and when they come to carry out that activity, they share the address of this activity or a zone, the smart contract, and the recipient's able to check that all the right people have acknowledged that it is the case that you want to carry out that activity. And of course, somebody could compromise you, and it's a mobile phone app, so they could compromise the mobile phone app, they could compromise your keys, but it's when you add a few other people to it, they've also got to compromise those as well. So we're just trying, that's the specific aspect of the product that we're trying to leverage. That's other people collaborating together to stop somebody having a bad thing happen to them.
Very interesting, very interesting. Yes, so you're actually using human beings to help.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
yeah. In fact, I mean, it sounds like a cliche or something, but we did a lot of simulations where we got people together, and we made it fun with a bit of a murder mystery suspense, and we had banks and people playing different roles, and we literally sat there and observed how they behaved, and they never realised that they lent on each other. And when you spoke to each person and said, would you trust people to acknowledge that you had a legitimate intent, they always said, oh no, I never trust anybody, right? It's kind of the opposite thing that you'd expect. But when we observed them, it was always the case that after the event, they were always referred to someone else. I wouldn't have done that, would I? And they would say, no, if I'd have known, you wouldn't have done it, right? I would have stopped it. So there's something there, and that's what we're trying to leverage, that behaviour between people.
Great. Now, obviously, we're here in London. You, I guess, are a startup.
Yes.
Have you been having much, or how do you find the London experience being a startup? I don't think you're actually based here, but I know you come down here quite often.
I mean, I commuted most of my life into London, and I'm actually from the Midlands, the middle of the UK. So I wouldn't say we're that connected with all the fintech that's going on in London at the moment. Just like I'm a developer, I built the product myself. So most of my relationships are like with people I don't know on, the Slack and products like that, and email, getting support. So sometimes I have to kick myself and make sure I come out and speak to people. So I know there's a lot of stuff going on here, and I was focused on getting the first beta of the product out so I could show people so they could understand the concept. And this conference is the first time I've let myself out of the cell that I normally confine myself to.
The man cave, I'm sure, at home.
Yeah. I mean, I love guitars, so I've got this music room, and I go in there and blast away on my guitars and my amps for 10 minutes, and then suddenly another idea, or suddenly I figure out how to solve a problem, and then I go back and hack a bit. So I tend to be a bit isolated doing that. But to get, if I have to come into London, maybe we join some kind of accelerator program. I'm going to have to bring a guitar, because now it's related to how I solve my problems in my head. So if I haven't got a guitar, when I worked at JP Morgan Chase, I used to promote music, and they wouldn't let you do anything like that at work. Okay, and I hear about Facebook and all these other companies that actually encourage it, But the kind of background I came from, it was not, you weren't allowed to do things like that, okay? It just wasn't the done thing. But hopefully, in some of the stuff, if we get hooked in with people down here, I'll be able to do that.
Well, there's two things that spring to my mind here. One, I should have a beard off with yourself and Jason King from
Oh, right. No,
Sean.
He beats me hands down. He's nice and groomed, and mine's all grey and scraggy. So I'll be on the loser there.
And also your shoes.
I'm on a winner on the shoes. I'm very proud of my shoes.
These have actually got, I don't know if people can see, but these have got gunshots that was put into the leather. And since we've got John McAfee here.
So I am told by the people that got the shoes off, there's one piece of leather, they shoot it with a shotgun, and I'm into my sporting gun, so that interested me, and so that's why it's just peppered with these holes, but it's all, it's not asymmetrical or anything, it's random, and I like that.
I was saying we should get John McAfee to maybe do the other side, because I know he likes a gun as well.
Yeah.
Maybe not where you're wearing them.
On that.
Yeah. Paul, thank you very much for your time, much appreciated. Cheers, thank you.
That.